2.
Did you know the same bakery that brought us Seinfeld's iconic black and white cookie and Bobcat episodes shaped the story of one of Boca Raton's most dynamic leaders? Today we're sitting down with Marc Wigder, Boca Raton City Councilman, entrepreneur, and community builder. Get ready for a fascinating journey that ties sitcom fame, community impact, and green innovation right here in sunny South Florida.
Hey, welcome everyone.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. We are so excited to be here today with another episode of the Digital Mayors Podcast, where we uncover the people, places, and projects that make South Florida the ultimate place to live, work, and play. I'm Michael Nathanson, of course, and this is my bro, Dan.
Hey now. And today we are thrilled to welcome a true South Florida gem, the one, the only Marc Wigder.
Thank you.
As a Boca Raton City Councilman, the founder of Greenhouse Offices and co-founder of Greensmith Builders, Marc has his hands in everything from sustainable construction to driving our community forward. And did I mention his father's bakery made Seinfeld history? Marc, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for being here. And so let's dive in. So when you're not busy running the city, right? When you're not busy,
No biggie.
when you're not busy building the future, driving innovation, how do you enjoy a day off in South Florida?
First of all, we're blessed to enjoy this Boca winter day.
Right? It is beautiful.
I'm wearing the vest today.
Right.
I think it was 52 degrees or 55 degrees this morning. It was beautiful chill in the air. I mean, there's so many amazing things to enjoy here. I mean, I love riding my bike around the city.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's a long ride, sometimes it's a short ride, but I have a little mini trailer on my truck, and so I'll just take it to a great spot, and then I'll just enjoy that location, or just do a walk around. On the weekends, you'll often find me just walking around different neighborhoods, just enjoying, you know, the great things about each neighborhood. And I think one of the special things about Boca is, as beautiful as a city as it is, you know, it still has unique neighborhoods. And, you know, downtown and Old Floresta, our central business district, you know, right here. You have now the Brick, the old IBM campus, where the personal computer was created. You know, and now there's all these, the El Rio Trail. Now there's all these shared use trails around that northern corridor where you could really get around the northern sector of the city really beautifully on a shared use trail that's protected from traffic. Right. So, you know, it's just kind of depends on the flavor of the day. Oh, the new thing, of course, is the James Rutherford kayak launch, which is a completely rebuilt park with the mangrove trails. And so, of course, my wife yelled at me because all of a sudden, once the park opened, outside my front door appear 2 kayaks.
Right. That's so weird. Just happened, honey.
Yeah,
it
they just
happened.
randomly appeared from Amazon. That's how great it is.
That's cool.
But enjoying just kayaking in those mangroves and out to the bay of the Intracoastal.
That's so cool.
In Boca, you would think that you're in the Caribbean or just somewhere.
Better than the Caribbean here.
I mean, it's just so kind of different from what one would think when just a couple hundred yards in the other direction is this big, you know, thriving city.
Yeah.
So the fact that we have like something for everyone, you know, really is.
Can I ask, have you ever, as a bike rider, have you ever gone west, like to the Everglades?
I have.
Right.
I have, especially during the pandemic. There was this brief moment of time, if you recall, where the streets were eerily quiet. And of course, you weren't really going to gymnasiums and things like that. You were always outside. So your only activity or recreation was outside. And I started going west. I started going to the like the Loxahatchee Park.
Right.
And if you take, I guess, Glades Road to the very, very end, Glades Road meets Loxahatchee Road of Parkland, where literally Palm Beach County and Broward County meet. And then on the levee to that, to the Everglades out there. You could take the levee
Miles.
literally as far as you want.
Yeah.
And I would take it up to Bednar's Farms.
Crazy, right?
That's so
And
cool.
you could do a 30-mile ride
Right.
and barely see any cars.
And by the
Yeah.
way, so the way I learned is, right, I actually did it, I think, pre-pandemic. I bought a bicycle from the Hillsborough bicycle shop. And the woman that helped me, her name was Damaris, she said, hey, we're doing this group ride this weekend. You should come. And she told me where to go. And it was Loxahatchee Road all the way west. And when it turns into the dirt road, keep going. And you drive, now it's been a little bit more cleared, but you just park in the dirt. Everybody gets off their bikes and you get on the levee and you ride up the levee. And it was amazing. My thought was, though, that's the Everglades right there.
Right there.
It's right there. And when I came back, there was an older gentleman fishing. And I'm looking, and there were 2 alligators right there. And I said to him, sir, please, would you do me a favor? Just back up a little bit, because he was right by the water.
Yeah.
And I said, the problem is when you slip, I'm going to be compelled to try and help you. And I'm going to die. I don't want to, would you please? And he says, no, we're fine. And he threw a rock, and it landed right next to the alligator. It didn't move.
No.
He'd been there a million times. I was, the first timer. But it was stunningly beautiful out there.
It's beautiful. And again, it's so close.
Right.
So I was riding my bike out there one day, and there was a kind of narrow portion of that trail, and there was a bunch of bikers just stopped, and so I approached them, and I'm like, what's going on?
Right.
And they say, look up there, and of course there's a gator across that trail
left.
that's
Oh, geez.
narrow.
Yeah.
Did you jump it?
Yeah, exactly. With its mouth open, right? So the gator's
Jeez.
sitting there,
It's
and they're
ready for
like, we're not going there. And I'm like, well, I think he's just sunbathing.
Right.
And, I think if we ride kind of fast, kind of right around him, I think we'll be okay. They're like, yeah, be my
You
guest.
first. Yeah. You be the base.
Did you survive?
Yeah. So anyway, we did.
Yeah.
And the gator, just like you said, he did not move.
Yeah.
Again, being a Florida resident now for 20 years, it is stunning, or just it is amazing to appreciate that close to this bustling city, just a few minutes
There's
away,
everything.
Yeah.
there is everything.
Right.
And
That's one of the things I love
Right.
most about Boca is I'm not a city guy. I'm not a country guy. I like to be near stuff, but not in stuff. And this is the place to do it.
Yeah.
Right. I drive 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and I'm in downtown Boca, and it's full of energy and life and bars and restaurants and things to do. And then I can just go home, and it's nice and quiet in my neighborhood. And well, except when he drives by, but
Yeah.
it's nice
Yeah.
and quiet.
Other than
there.
that, it's okay.
I love it here. And you were talking about cold, by the way. It was cold this morning. I have 2 thick shirts that I own.
Yeah.
This
This
is
is
one
one
of
of
them.
them.
This is one of the 2.
I know it's
I break
cold.
it out a couple times a year, and I'm a little warm right now.
Yeah.
But overall, like I said, once or twice a year, I get to break them out.
so break out the vest.
Yes.
It's Boca winter.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mark, rumor has it you might have a hidden talent or hobby, perhaps.
Let's watch his
You're
face.
like,
Look at let's
you're
watch
gonna
his
have to
face.
tell me what it is. Yeah.
So you ready? We saw each other this morning at the Boca Chamber breakfast, and I sat at the table and I was talking with Kristen Ritchie of Johnson Ritchie Family Law Firm, and Laura Gilly with her as well, and they told me that you have a hidden talent.
Which is?
This man produces amazing children. So Amelia,
Done.
right? No, let me tell you, Kristen and Laura would not, they couldn't say enough how amazing your daughter Amelia is.
Oh, that's so kind.
Like,
Thank you.
so impressed beyond her year. I just want you to know that, like, you and your wife have
Thank
done a
you.
good job raising.
I'm gonna text her. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you've done a great job raising her, because I'm telling you, Kristen could barely control herself about how great your daughter is.
That's
so
awesome.
kind,
And by the
yeah.
way, I had no idea. I go to a networking event once a month-ish at Kristen's office.
Oh,
and
that's
I had no
awesome.
idea.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go look for Amelia.
Yeah.
I know you're dead.
Right?
She, younger in life, she just became passionate about mock trial. And,
Right.
she started getting involved. I taught law at her middle school, and, the kids just kind of, getting them acclimated towards it. And she really picked up on it and just thrived,
That's awesome.
thrived. And so then she started doing mock trial, and then she was the president of the mock trial club. and of course I'm, quelling,
Of
all
course.
those things. But and then she had to do the mock trial at the circuit court up in West Palm Beach. And I think she did it in front of Kristen or
Right.
Kristen's
Yeah.
sister, Carolyn. And, it's something that she really just became passionate about.
That's
and,
awesome.
And I think that is one of the things you just want for your kids.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm really in support of anything you want to do.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
be passionate about
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you'll see, if you love what you do, you'll be great at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean-
So, she is, the reason why I'm looking at my phone, the only thing is that FSU's college decisions come out today,
Uh-oh.
and
All right.
she
Oh,
is,
I'll get
so
you.
there could be,
We may get a live on the
yeah,
air.
we might get a live
All
on
right.
the air here, and
We might have to edit.
I will let you know. Yeah,
That's really cool.
So yeah, it's So anyway, it's an exciting time for her. She's
Yeah.
a senior in high school.
Love
That's
that.
awesome.
Right, you have to be proud.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I still don't know exactly what I want to do when I grow
Right.
up. I wanted to do the NBA, but they didn't call. I'm still waiting.
waiting
I'm
for the
hoping that
Celtics.
they're going to come to the YMCA and see me play and give me a contract, but it hasn't happened
Yeah,
yet.
there you go. Thanks.
But both my kids know what they want.
Yeah.
11 and 16 years old, they both know what they want to do when they grow up. I admire that so much.
yeah.
I think
That's
it's so cool.
That's
I think it is so cool. And so, Mark, you're juggling so many roles here, right? So what keeps you motivated to make such a difference in our community?
That's a loaded question.
Right.
Thank you.
I was, every opportunity sometimes presents itself after a significant challenge.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, right around this time, 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a tumor, and that tumor turned out to be testicular cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, we had to have some surgery kind of right away at
Yep.
Miami, Sylvester. And unfortunately, the pathology or whatever was, again, I'm a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, so
Right.
like I don't know about these things other than what my doctors
Sure.
tell me.
Right.
And so, unfortunately, the pathology was, I guess that the tumor was one of the bad ones, let's
Okay.
say, one of the cancerous ones that was spreading or something like that. So, I had to have some chemo
Right.
after that. And so that's coming on 2.5 years ago, where I had to do some chemo. And listen, I'm blessed.
Yeah.
The chemo, I guess,
Right.
knock on wood, worked.
Yeah.
It's 2.5 years later. I'm cancer free.
Love that.
I still go to the
Congrats.
doctor
Yeah,
a
of
lot.
course.
Obviously test my blood and side effects
Right.
and all these things. And but the chemo, coma, and all those things. When you come out of that, and mind you, when you lose every hair on your body,
Right.
and I mean every single hair on your
Right.
body,
The eyebrows, the
Um,
eyelid, everything.
everything.
Yeah.
There is a moment of clarity, and there is a moment where you do feel reborn. And the question is, if you're given a second chance, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
What are you going to do
Right.
with it?
Wow.
And so the point is, for me,
Perspective.
it was perspective. For
Yeah.
me, it was, I've been so blessed to start this company and to have a great family, which, you've mentioned already. But my feeling was now it's time to give back a little bit more
Right.
than just writing checks to charities and things like that. Maybe it's to really get involved in this community, that has blessed me and my family and my company so much. Maybe it's time to get a little more involved. And funny, I've already been on the board. I wanted to be involved in civic affairs. I was already on the board of the community advisory panel for about 4 years or 5 years before I got elected. And as you know, I'm a biker, so
Right.
I was already on the Bike and Pedestrian Committee for also 4 years. So really already starting to know the issues in the city significantly for many, many years. So, when an opportunity came for a city council seat, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to do
Right.
this.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's a new perspective for me. It's grateful. It's it's one of those things, where I feel blessed every day to help people or to meet people, just to meet so many people every day, to meet new people has been great. And then also, as a real estate attorney and investor and all those things, to use some of that experience to help guide some of the progress in the city, not just the great things, but even some of the challenges, like helping redesign and helping work with the developers to redesign the repositioning of the Dixie Manor community, which is the public housing community here, which is significantly deteriorated.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fact that we were able to help shape what's going to be the future of this housing, and it's going to be decent housing, for the next generation of workforce housing in the city is something I'm really
which is
proud
needed.
of. Yeah, which is needed. Certainly, it's one of my one of the big issues that I support, as you can hear in the city council meetings often, is affordable, attainable workforce housing. We're not talking about free housing here.
Right.
We're talking just about some of the workforce who lives in the city and works in the city being able to live close to where they work.
Yeah.
Because we know, especially what's happened, in this last generation, commuting times have gotten longer.
Yeah.
And if the entire workforce can't live here, traffic is just going to get worse.
Yeah.
So we've got to be able to have some of that workforce living close to where they work. And downtown's a classic example of that, right? Where you have a residential community here. So you have some of these people who can do most of their daily activities here without getting in a car.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
which we're thankful for.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's good for everybody.
Right. It's better for everybody, right? So the people who do need to come visit, or who might live a little further out west and want to come in, that's certainly acceptable and encouraged. But for the people who already live here, they have an opportunity to just, do their daily activities here, reduce that traffic, leave the cars at home. And then, obviously when you get into, my sustainable background, that's kind of what we call like the triple bottom line, right? It's better for the environment.
Yep.
It's better for the people. It's better for business, right?
Yeah.
It's better for
Everything.
It's better for everything.
For the community, for
It's
everybody.
better for the community, right? So it's, it's a win-win-win.
And it's so funny, by the way, right, how that works, right? Because one of the things we want to talk about is, initiatives that you're excited about and all that. And how cool is it that we see Boca Connect literally stop right across the street with a woman that, right? We took a picture, Ben. You got that picture, I think, right? With Boca Connect right across the street. The woman got out, looked like she was going to work.
Yeah.
She had her little lunch bag.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So cool. So Boca Connect, tell us a little bit about that and other initiatives you're excited about.
Well, listen, certainly, one of the things that's happening in many cities is you have this micro-mobility and last-mile mobility where, it's not just about having a taxi service or an Uber service, where the city's sponsoring, these types of initiatives, because there's a realization that for certain minor travel, intra-city and here, intra-downtown travel, you don't need a lot of these larger services. Something like Boca Connect, an on-demand app, can pick you up here and can take you to the train station, could take you within a 2-mile radius, can take you close by. It's basically, it's $2 if you go anywhere, out of the downtown, and in the downtown it's free.
Right. So cool.
So it gives people an opportunity, to get around the downtown without moving their car.
Yeah.
Maybe you're elderly. Maybe you have a young kid. Maybe you're just going to work like that lady was, or coming home from work, right? If it's the afternoon, like that lady was. And so to have that other aspect of it, it's one of the things I think that makes Boca a little bit special. Of course, we have PalmTran, and you have these county-wide and inter-county kind of transit services, but the Boca Connect is really an intra-city transport service. And, how we started investing really in that last-mile mobility, people generally, if they can, if they're given opportunity, want to leave their cars at home.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? They would love to leave their car at home if it's convenient.
Right.
Yeah.
And Boca Connect is one of those ways to start that convenience. What's different now, let's say, from many years ago where there was a downtowner, which I'm familiar with, or kind of traditional trolley services, is now we have data. Now, every time someone clicks that app, we're getting their information in terms of where they're going and whatnot. And we could change that service. So they're already
Right.
looking at expanding that service to have a second leg go to the beach. Usually, it went
that's
right.
cool.
The first, the pilot program went just to the bridge.
Right.
But now they're looking at going to the Barrier Island.
Oh, cool.
And think about that again, also as a pilot program potentially, but giving some of those people, there's thousands of units,
Yep.
thousands
Yeah, some
of
traffic relief.
owners saying, "Hey, I want to go out to dinner in Meisner Park or Royal Palm Plaza. Let me just take the
Right.
Connect instead of driving
Right.
my car here."
Yes.
And and it's a win-win. And then likewise, eventually, if that happens. Right now, in order to go to the beach, you have to drive there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you could bike there, but but generally you have to drive there. And the question is, hey, well, maybe I could leave my car, downtown wherever it is, and just take the shuttle there.
Right.
Yeah.
So again,
Easy.
alleviating traffic by the beach is better for the environment, and
everybody.
especially when you think the reason why you're going to the beach, in theory, let's say, is to enjoy the environment.
Yeah.
So let's support it also.
Right. And for me, the worst part is parking and then having to carry all your crap and walk all the way there. I would imagine what they're talking about is not leaving you half a mile away from the beach.
Right.
They probably bring you
Right
to
where
it.
you want to go,
Would
and then
be
you
my
get
guess.
out and go right to your spot on the
Yeah.
beach.
One of our joys are our two dogs, Jake and Shelby. They basically own our house at this point. They tell us what to do. They
Right.
tell us where to go. And one of the places they tell us to go is to the Bark Beach,
Right.
which is at the Spanish River Beach up over there. And and they it's on the weekends, and they just love it.
That's
They
awesome.
just love the Bark Beach, and the dogs all come run around, and run from the waves, just like children, and it's one of those just great Boca things, where you could bring your dogs there every now and then, and like I said, enjoying the environment here. It's it's just beautiful.
That's
Love that.
awesome. I think it is such a great initiative, and it's great for the city. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, that's
Right. It makes our lives better.
yeah.
Right. It makes the city better for all of us, for everybody listening, watching, for those of us that live here. It's the best.
One of the things, I mentioned it is, we started it as a pilot program. And I think that is one of the, when you talk about the laboratories of democracy, like Justice Brandeis talked about, I think that is one of the interesting things. So, it's something that we're trying.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see how it works.
Right.
And guess what? We could change the route. We could change how it works. We
Yeah.
could see, and so I think that is also interesting, right? Because, there could be, there could be a huge cost if you were going to do some sort of fixed train or,
Right.
rail or something like that, But on something like this, you could do it as a pilot program. You can see how it works. You can adjust it. And, having a little flexibility, in the city's initiatives, makes it more like a business,
Right.
Yeah.
which is something I'm in favor of. When you think of like the traditional bureaucratic
Right.
government moving slow thing,
Right.
you're like, well, that how is that going to work? Here we're moving nimbly,
Right.
which is kind of, let's say, newer for us,
Right. For
Yeah.
government.
but appreciated. Yeah,
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
And
feels good.
appreciated,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the greenhouse offices and Greensmith Builders. How did that come about? What is it that you do, and how did it lead to you becoming a city councilman?
Yeah. So
It's a lot. I'm sorry.
No.
Right? I can repeat if you need.
No. No, I mean, because I kind of say that where I am is organic in terms of I feel I've gotten here to where I am, that I kind of take these signs and
Right.
take them organically. And so I was a real estate attorney for many years. And after some market cycles, I was able to start investing into my own properties. Initially, buying distressed real estate and repositioning it, rehabilitating it, remarketing it, whatnot. And when I bought my first property in Boca Raton, I spent probably, like, let's say, a year kind of just trying to figure out what's happening here. You know, what am I trying to do here? And so you kind of look at market forces, and my property, you know, which was then called the greenhouse, you know, had a lot of doors, a lot of small businesses. I've always been a small business fan, always been a small business attorney. Again, my dad had a small business, the bakery.
Right.
So it's always something that's close to me. And so, you know, I saw there was a lot of doors, a lot of small businesses there. And of course, you know, as I was leasing spaces to these companies, you know, sometimes they would ask me for, oh, you're a real estate lawyer. They'd ask me for advice.
Right.
Not really, like I was going to be their landlord.
Right.
And they were asking me for advice about their business, you
That's
know.
funny.
I was like, well, why don't you show me your business plan?
Right.
They're like, business plan?
What's
What's
that?
that?
Yeah.
You know, or how am I going to make this work? So, you know, all of a sudden I started advising them as to their own business plans. And you know, and helping them, you know, achieve some of their goals, and of course, it was mutually beneficial,
Sure.
right? It's like, hey, if your business grows,
Right.
they're
paying their rent.
you know, and because we had lots of doors, and things started to go well for some of these businesses, they said, hey, you know, I'm doing really well. I could use that space next door.
Right.
I said, oh, okay. I said, you want to move next door? And I said, okay, great. Or I'll take it over also. I'll
Right.
expand. You're
Nice.
growing,
Yeah.
right? I said, sure, you know. And then they said, well, you know, I just want that space across the hall. I don't need this space anymore. I just want to move. So I'm like, okay, you want to move across the hall, but into more space. Great.
Yeah.
You're growing, you're moving. And so all of a sudden, what happened was like 20 businesses were moving and growing and expanding
So
and
cool.
shifting. And so, you know, my team and I, like, we would literally have like moving day.
Right.
Because we'd have 3 people or 4 businesses shifting in the same
Wow.
day.
That's cool.
And, you know, and I saw all this kind of just business activity happening. And then, you know, obviously we're looking at operations of buildings and things like that to make them more efficient. And, you know, we started measuring temperatures and measuring, you know, operational costs. And, you know, as you can imagine, Florida in the summer is very hot. And, you know, as we started measuring those temperatures, anecdotally, but factually, you know, we saw those averages going up every year, right? We saw those averages going up. And we started measuring temperatures, and, you know, as you might imagine, you know, the temperature of a roof or the temperature of your asphalt in the middle of July is not the same temperature as it is right here.
No.
Right.
You know, it's about 135 degrees.
Wow.
So generally what happens is, you know, when you're cooling space like this, you're not only cooling the interior of the space, you're cooling down a roof that's 135 degrees.
Right.
And the cost to do so in Florida is, you know, exorbitant. It's a massive cost. So looking just at operational efficiency, I'm like, what can we do?
Right.
I'm like, what can we do? So we looked at some technology, and with new technologies now, of course, the Internet of Things, we were able to set up an energy management system to control the thermostats. But as you can imagine, the thermostats of a building are not like your house, where there's just one nest or whatever.
Right.
You know, it's 150 thermostats in one building. That's that size. And in order to do it for the Internet of Things, if there are any Star Trek fans out there, the idea is that the thermostat system in these buildings now with Wi-Fi work as a hive mind.
Right.
So it's the Borg.
There you
right?
go.
So we're talking about Borg technology here, folks, that the thermostats need to talk to each other and then talk to the mother ship, right? And so the mother controller, right? And then that all reports back to the computer. So I'm like, let's do this, you know? So we made a small investment. I think it might have been $25,000 or something like that to do these Wi-Fi thermostat, you know, the Hive Borg system, you know, in the entire building. We immediately reduced operational costs, air conditioning costs by 30%.
Wow.
They
That's a
thought
big
that the
difference.
payback would be 18 months or 2 years.
Right.
The payback was like 3 months. We
Amazing.
saved that much money
That's
per
amazing.
month. We reduced our FP&L costs by 20%, and we reduced them by 20% for 10 years.
Really?
Wow.
Right? So they never, since
Wow.
we bought the property, until we sold the property, the FP&L rates never went above the amount
Amazing.
that we did. So that level of safety. So again, light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my team, what else can we do?
Right.
You know? And so, of course, LED lighting, right? LED lighting, not halogen, not heat lamps, right? LED, very cool lighting, very important. Motion sensors, right? You walk into the bathroom, the lights turn on, you
Right.
leave, you know? But we put them in all the businesses, meaning you walk into an office, your lights turn on, your
Right.
lights turn off, right?
Someone that's a tenant in your building, that's standard.
Right, standard. That's what we did, standard. Then we did photovoltaic. We had a atrium, and so there was enough natural light coming into the atrium where you didn't even need the hallway lights on
Right,
unless it
that's
was
good.
nighttime. So photovoltaic, they turned off during
Right.
the day. You know, those kinds of things. So we just did all of these kind of small initiatives, and all of a sudden we start doing some math. When you talk about how many light bulbs we saved, it turns out we saved 500,000 light bulbs by
Wow.
putting in this system.
Amazing,
gosh.
right?
Right? Then we started changing the paper napkins in the, if you do air dryers,
Right.
right? Or, the amount of it was 48 trees a year
Really?
that you're saving.
Wow.
2,000 tons of
Wow.
paper, like mind-boggling savings. So
In one building.
Right.
In one
In one
building,
building.
it's
Right.
100,000 people in one commercial office building.
Wow.
And so I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm like, I got to learn a little bit more about this. And so by chance, I had found out that Yale University's School of Management had started a MBA with a sustainability sub-focus. So I went up there for my family is from the Northeast, so obviously I was familiar with the area, and we spend summers up there. And I attended one class. About economics, or macroeconomics, or
Right.
something like that. And my feeling was I learned more in 1.5 hours about microeconomic pricing theory than I did as an attorney
Right.
that I
Right.
did ever. And I was like, okay, I've been very fortunate as a lawyer and as a real estate guy, but I need to make this investment in myself
Yeah.
to improve the quality of my kind of own corporate education. And so, again, by the grace of God, I was accepted to Yale School of
huh?
Management,
Wow.
and went back at the age of 40.
Good for you.
There was no Zoom at this time.
Right. Oh,
Right.
wow.
So, and the EMBA program, so I went back and forth to Connecticut for 2 years,
Wow.
every other weekend for the
Wow.
long weekends, to get my MBA
Amazing.
and get into sustainability. So, as fortunate as I am, the first person I thank is my wife.
Of course.
Because
Yeah.
I have to say thank you
Right.
for just being so supportive,
Yeah.
right? Because we had young kids at
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
and it was one of those things where I was like, honey, I have to do this.
Mhm.
I have to do this because this is really helping. And then, of course, going in to Yale and meeting these incredible people, and then learning about sustainability, really learning about the ingrained, the life cycle assessment of your building or the environment or what we can do, was just another eye opener for me, where
Yeah.
you realized, I don't think I came out of Yale being a better business person. I think I came out of Yale being a better person.
Right.
That's
So-
awesome.
It's like, and so it's like, I was like, what, so it's a real eye opener. And it's one of those things I just infused to my entire corporate strategy.
Yeah.
My master's thesis was on infusing sustainability in corporate real estate strategy.
Wow.
And I was able to kind of create then for the next 5 years until I got elected, or something like that, 5-6 years, was to kind of create this culture of infusing sustainability into any property that I touch.
Right.
Awesome.
And
What-
one of my
Sorry, what were you gonna ask?
I was just, how did that lead to you becoming a city councilman?
Right.
That doesn't sound
Right. How
like
does
a
that
path
work?
to city councilman.
One of my colleagues at Yale was also a building contractor. So we started Green Smith Builders,
Okay.
where we actually built workforce housing with prefabricated panels. These are ultra energy efficient. Believe it or not, it's in Minnesota. And you would think Minnesota is very, very different from Florida. But in terms of construction and sustainability, it's actually quite similar, which is in Florida, you want to keep the heat out.
Right.
In Minnesota, you want to keep the heat in.
Right. So you just turn it inside out.
It's the same thing. But the idea is what you start learning in terms of energy efficiency is like you don't want that thermal bridging. You don't want that heat to be able to permeate.
Right.
And if buildings are built inefficiently, you lose heat.
Right.
Both ways,
One way.
whether you're in
Yeah,
one
one
way
way
or
or
the
the
other. And so, that was the inception of that division of the company. And, I started talking to my tenants at the greenhouse. I said, hey, as I've been always interested in their business models, I wasn't just signing leases.
Right.
I would make them give me the Shark Tank pitch. If they want to be in my building, I'm like, what are you doing? What's your business?
Good for you.
Because the point is, you don't have to just sell your customers. I'm like, you need to sell me. I'm like, I need to believe in what you're doing. I don't need to just sign leases for any, I said, I'm not about that. I said, there's plenty of that out there. If you want that, go ahead.
Right.
I said, we're about a collaboration. It's an association of merchants here. And so I started saying, what's your biggest challenge? And you would think that you'd hear some crazy, taxes and all this. They're like, Mark, we can't find people to come to work.
Right.
Again, being from New York, it was kind of never an issue.
Right.
Here,
They're everywhere.
Yeah. Here, they're like, we can't find enough help. We can't find skilled labor. The process for obtaining a business tax receipt, the license that we call it in Florida, it's very difficult. It's very onerous. There's all these inspections and forms and different. It's not just applying to the city. Here you go. There's a city, there's a county, there's a state licensure. It's DBEPR they call it. The acronym. But he's like, it's very. How do you navigate all those things? We're just a small business. What do they expect? We're not IBM. We don't have this. Trove of cash to go do these things. How do we do that? And I'm like, I'm going to find out. I said, guess what? I'm going to find out. And to his credit, at the time, it was council member Scott Singer, now our mayor for many years, who was happy to listen. And, I always thank him for that, because he saw it as a need. He saw it as, hey, streamlining. And it's one of the initiatives he still champions, is, saying, hey, streamlining for businesses, it's important. It's important to the city. And it was one of those things where, I started seeing that these issues that were affecting my tenants weren't just business issues and weren't just building or sustainability issues. They were city issues.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, let me get more involved in the city. I said, maybe if I could understand some of the issues going on in the city, I could help
your tenants,
my customers too, and my clients as an attorney as well. So I was like, so I started getting involved in the community advisory panel. I joined a board, and unfortunately, I guess right around the first year after I was appointed to the board was the Parkland tragedy.
Right.
And things got very real very quickly. And it was one of those things where, of course, the city came together. There was police at every school.
It's crazy times.
Crazy times.
Yeah.
And as I said, Frank Barbieri, now the retired superintendent, just a fantastic public servant. He started coming to our meetings with our youth subcommittee because students, they started coming to our meetings to express, not just their kind of concerns about safety, but all of a sudden it just started leading to these other conversations like bullying. And you're like, well, what does the Parkland tragedy have to do with bullying in schools? But you could kind of see, that students were just feeling this, concern for their safety, and that there was this thing out there, and inclusion about saying, hey, make sure that people don't eat lunch alone, and all those things. And, maybe if a person who, of course, was, very ill, was, it's a dream perhaps, but, maybe if that person was was reached out to before things got so terrible,
Right.
that tragedies like that can be avoided.
Yeah.
And so again, it was something that got very, very, very quickly. And so what I thought was kind of going in as a mission to kind of help businesses turned out to be like a mission that that this
Save
is
the
an
world.
avenue of
Bigger.
this is an avenue of trying to help whoever needs help.
Right.
Yeah.
And then obviously just not then expanding that network. And so then I've just kind of like the real estate business. I'm like, what else could I do?
Right.
So then I was an avid biker and runner and tries and stuff. And I started seeing, these issues where, traffic sometimes, especially out west, drives very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid growing up also in the suburbs of New York, riding my bike literally, or my skateboard literally everywhere,
Yeah.
I was like, I wouldn't let my kid ride
No.
on some of these streets.
We had this conversation yesterday.
And certainly, we talk about this at city council often. It's like, listen, I appreciate that there's a painted white line
Right.
on the streets.
Right.
I said, but when you paint a white line on Yamato Road, I
Yeah.
said, that doesn't give me a lot of comfort. That,
Yeah.
For your
I'm going to
kid's
respect
safety.
I want this person to be protected.
Yeah.
And again, it's, circling back, it's one of the reasons why I just love the El Rio Trail and then the interwoven trails around to Hornley Park. Around FAU, because you have an opportunity here, to have younger people or just everybody just use a shared use trail protected. And what's happened over the years, as you see now with micromobility, one of the issues that we started to face when I was still on the on the bike and pedestrian committee, of course, is now people have their e-bikes, people have their
Everywhere.
scooters,
Everywhere.
But what's happening, as you might see, or you pay attention to, is people are getting off the tri-rail or getting off the bus, and they're taking their little scooter or their little bike that last mile to where they have to be.
We
I see
all
it
the
every
time.
day.
All the time.
My older son, right? We take him to the train station, the tri-rail station in Deerfield. He goes to Dreyfus up in West Palm Beach. Every day when I drop him off and the train comes up, there's 5 or 10 people that get off with their scooters. They jump right on and head off, the motorized scooters.
Now, again, remember, think about what that's doing, right? We've taken 5 cars off the road because micromobility has given those people an opportunity to get that last mile, right? Walking in July is not fun.
No.
Right.
But if I could do that last mile relatively quickly, and safely, all of a sudden, we've taken cars off the road. We've saved their insurance costs. We've saved their automobile operational costs, right? We've saved the environment a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And we've reduced traffic. So, we've done a lot of things with micromobility and transit. Again, it's one of those things when you're looking at issues, I try not to look at them in silos. I try to look at that kind of greater impact. And so people say, oh, why do you care about bike trails? I said, well, listen, you wouldn't think
Here's
about
why.
it. But, helping that bike trail go a little bit further, takes cars off the road.
Right.
And especially when you think about FAU students, student housing is a concern. They all can't live on campus. So
Right.
giving them the opportunity to just take a scooter or a bike, to their apartments or whatnot instead of a car, again, helps. And as a college student, that's kind of what you want too. You don't want to have to take your car everywhere. And not everyone can afford a car.
Right. Of course. All right. So let me ask you a question. Switching gears, literally.
Switch gears.
Right. We've been biking. Let's switch gears. Let's go inside. Are you a reader?
Reader.
Yeah.
Big reader.
Fiction, nonfiction.
Everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm one of those readers that likes to go into the rabbit hole. Like I'll read something, then I'll read something else, and I'll read something, I'll just keep going in. I'm a World War II buff, so you just read so many books about World War II. There's a whole series of books about the French resistance. There's too many to name, but somehow I got just interested in some of these stories of the French Resistance, and there's a whole history of like women in the French Resistance, right? Because what they had to do. One of the one of the heroines is like Lucy Albrock. And you read these stories and you see some of these old movies where these French resistance fighters hid messages in their bras,
Right.
and were doing their hair with with those heat curlers, and
Right.
the Nazis were coming, so they destroyed the
Right, the
hidden
messages or
messages with
whatever. Right. Amazing,
would
right?
do stuff to get during that resistance phase of the war.
So is it
obviously.
mostly nonfiction that you read?
Some fiction too, obviously. There's, I love the Dan Brown books. I love.
Me too.
I just love Da
It's
Vinci
a great
Code
it's a great
and
escape,
Angels and
right?
Demons. Yeah, I just love that, and I also I like reading books that turn into movies or vice versa.
Yeah.
And then like if you read The Martian, Andy Weir is
Right.
like, oh my God, and you see the movie, and of course there's no way they could put that level of detail
Yeah,
in.
of course.
Right.
Matt
It'll be a
Damon-
12-hour movie.
Oh right, exactly. Matt
Right.
Damon is kind of he was pretty good at it, but the book is so detailed,
Yeah.
And then Andy Weir wrote like a a kind of follow up, like a a Martian, like not a trilogy, but like a second book, which gets into kind of interspecies conversations type thing, and that's interesting. So I like when they have like that history kind of connection, or or a futuristic connection of what life can be like. Obviously like the Philip Dick stories and the Minority Reports and things like that. That are good, but then I just like reading also just nonfiction about history. What did these what did they do? And it's funny because I was reading there's this great book by Clark Clifford, Counsel to the President. He was White House counsel to like many presidents, right? And so I was just flipping through that a couple months ago, and he was talking about Harry Truman. And if you recall, not that we were there,
Right, I was gonna
but I'm
say.
saying, but if you read about it, Harry Truman decided not to run for a second term.
Right.
Lyndon Johnson decided not to run for a second term. And so I flipped to those pages literally just as our current president, Joe Biden, decided not to run.
Right.
And I just thought, wow. I said, history, it's like, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, it's there. And, and so we could learn a lot currently from the lessons in our past. So, it's one of those things that I read about too. Yeah, it's
That's
great.
awesome.
It's a great book.
What's one event or initiative in South Florida that you've recently attended or that you're looking forward to that's coming up?
I mean, there's so many. I love holiday time in
Right.
Florida. I think I sent a picture of the Christmas tree lighting or the holiday tree lighting in Meisner Park.
Were you there?
I was there.
Yeah,
we
it
were
was
there.
beautiful,
We were
right?
flipping the switches.
Yeah.
It's just
that's
it's-
beautiful, right?
yeah.
If you
Yeah,
look
it's
more to the right, my brother, my wife, and I were there. We had
With the vendors.
Yeah. Oh, this one actually. This was the Pops, the
Right.
symphony.
Oh.
This is the night of the symphony where they were just playing the beautiful Christmas and holiday
So beautiful, right?
music. Yeah, it's just awesome.
There's something about it.
It kind of growing up in the New York area, that Rockefeller Christmas tree.
There's something to it. Something
There's
about
something
it, right?
there's something special. When I go down to Meisner during holiday time, I just love it. And
I agree.
and I just like to see, and as official too, I just like to see people I just like to
Enjoying
see the people loving it.
Yes.
And in Meisner Park now in the median, they have a Christmas light or a lit up like giant picture frame,
Right.
like Happy Holidays from Boca Raton, where and so I was talking about it, and it's just a line of people waiting to take
Right.
their picture, say, "Hey, I'm in Boca.
Right.
Here are the
Isn't
palm
that cool?
trees."
Yeah.
And
It's a brisk 68 degrees.
Yeah, right.
And when you're from, the Northeast and you move down here and the winters are so cold up north and you're down
Yes, they are.
here, and you see people enjoying themselves,
Yeah.
you kind of pinch yourself
Yeah.
about how lucky how lucky we are to live here.
Yes.
You know, and enjoy this quote winter
Right.
that we're enjoying. So,
Right.
you know, obviously it's something
And so look at, so you just talked about, I'm telling you, it's almost like you know where I'm going next, right? You talk about the nice feeling of the holidays and right, just what this time of year brings and the memories and the thoughts. So my brother and I came up with a new, well, let's call it segment.
Yeah.
And so this is the Book of Awesome. Okay? The Book of Awesome is a book that really just has different things that sort of are nice and are happy and make you feel good. So here's what we'd like to do.
Yeah.
Will you flip open to a page?
Flip open to a page.
Read the headline, and if it brings you a memory, a thought, share something, you know, because there's some cool stuff in there.
Okay. Well, let's have some fun, people.
Yeah.
Peeling off your wet bathing suit
Right.
and putting on warm clothes after swimming for a long time.
Listen. That's nice, right?
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's fortunate, you know, in Boca we have some just amazing weather.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, I love, you know, either going to the beach or, like I said, going kayaking. You know, when we opened up the, you know, the Rutherford Park, the kayak trails and the kayak launch. And as I told you, when those two kayaks magically appeared at my front door, I told my wife, I'm like, honey, we're going. Right? And this is late summer, early fall. I'm like, honey, we're going. You know, and so we go out there, and the water was still beautiful at the time.
Yeah.
And just we paddle out to this. You know, it's kind of like a little island almost on the edge of the Intercoastal Bay near Rutherford Park. And, you know, there's an old, you know, there's an old tree branch, you know, kind of hanging over, just what you picture like this Caribbean, you know, oasis where, you know, and there's a little beach where we dock our beach, you know, we dock our kayaks there by the beach, and we just chill out for a while and watch the boats go by. And there were some other boaters there, and their kids are just jumping in the water.
That's cool.
And,
I haven't checked that out yet. We gotta check that out.
That is just
That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's just so cool.
But I gotta say though, Mark, we do have it tough here sometimes. When we get in the pool and the water's too warm, when you get out, it's
cold.
It's cold. I peeling those bathing suits is horrible. What we usually do at my house is, because my wife doesn't typically go in the pool. She very rarely goes in. I have her go in, start the shower, unlock the side door, you know, into the bathroom,
the cabana
and then you make the run to get in the warm water.
Right? Listen, we live a tough life.
It is tough.
Remember, a handful of months ago, I had a very first world problem. I was in the pool, and I was pondering a challenging day. And I said to myself, it's terrible to even admit it. My pool's a little too warm. A little too, like it's
tough.
It was
tough life. You live a tough life.
It was
I'm
terrible,
so sorry.
right? So I went and I turned down the pool heater. Like, what an amazing place that we live where I can go, it's a little too warm.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're blessed. A lot of people ask me, so what are the biggest problems in Boca? And I said, frankly, the biggest problems in Boca are Boca problems.
Yeah.
We have some challenges, right? We have challenges. We're working hard every day, you know, to deal with them. But in reality, the challenges we face pale in comparison to people in other countries.
Heck yeah.
People in other
cities.
Yeah.
Near us.
People in other people in other countries, people in other cities, people in other cities near us.
Right.
You know, and so it is one of those things where you do have to pinch yourself often.
Oh yeah. And to
I'll
be so
pinch you.
grateful.
Dan, I will pinch you.
Yes, yeah, and multiple times in a similar conversation that you pinch yourself. You thank your lucky stars for what we have, you know, and you see, you know, not just the great things we're doing, but as you gentlemen and I know, all the people that are so generous in this town.
Amazing, right?
That are giving of their time, giving of their money, giving
their
philanthropically their expertise in so many ways that is literally unmatched, you know, and I just think it's just one of those things that, you know, of course, you know, Boca's in this great place, and Boca is this great place.
Yeah.
But it is a great place because of its people.
The people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, to now be a little bit more ingrained in that, wider net of the community, rather than just kind of your traditional, let's say, business sense. It's really been an eye-opening and just a fantastic, experience, that I'm proud to be a part of.
That's awesome.
So we've mentioned the bakery, we've mentioned Seinfeld. So will you share a little bit about your dad's bakery on Seinfeld, and let us know, like, how many episodes do you think were you guys on? Was the bakery on?
I believe the bakery was on 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Because I was already an attorney at the time, and I had to sign the
paperwork.
the release.
Yeah.
But there's a couple funny stories. I mean, listen, my late dad, who was a great man and an inspiration, was a Holocaust survivor. He came here with nothing. Really, the inspiration for me to work hard every day, because he did, to put me through law school and help me start my business. But, and he just, same thing. He just made a great product. He became a kind of staple on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And so did Seinfeld.
Right.
And so one day, the Seinfeld producers call up my dad, and they're like, hey, we'd like to use your bakery for Seinfeld. We're doing this show, and, maybe you heard of it, and it was already a couple of years in. So certainly
So you heard of it.
Everyone heard of it, yeah. It was many years in already. And my dad's like, oh, sure. He's like, how much you going to pay me? And, the producers are like, we're not going to pay you.
Right.
We're going to put your bakery on TV.
Right.
And a year later, you're going to thank us.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, and he called me up. My dad called me up. He said, Mark, is this okay? And I said, Dad, yeah, this is good.
That's pretty okay.
I said, this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good news, And so, they do the episode. It runs. And, and it's obviously, the first episode was based on, this babka and the black and white cookie. And initially, I think there was one component of the show where the babka had a hair.
Oh, yeah.
And my parents did, like, we don't like that. It's like, we would never sell anything.
That's
and
so
I'm like,
funny.
don't worry about it.
I love
it's
that.
a joke,
Oh,
I love
is
that.
So awesome.
And then, but there's the black and white cookie, and of course, and so what ends up happening is all of a sudden these people, patrons, whatever, start coming to the bakery, all asking for black and white cookies, black and white cookies, black and white cookies. And so my dad, talks to me one day, and he's like, Mark, he goes, something's going on. He goes, these people are coming to the bakery. They're all asking for black and white cookies.
That's so funny.
And I'm telling him, he's like, we have challah, we have cookies, we have this, we have that. He's like, don't you want the Danish? He goes, do you want something else?
Right.
He's like, and they're like, no. We want black and white cookies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Dad, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of a sudden, people are buying black and white cookies. All of a sudden, buses are pulling up to
Amazing.
the bakery. People are filing out of the bus.
That's
black
so
and white
cool.
cookie, black and white cookie, black and white cookie. And I'm like, okay. He's like, what is going on? I said, Dad, this show has become
made it.
Right.
a success of the Upper West Side.
Right.
I said, and he said, so the buses were on the Seinfeld tour. The bakery is on the Seinfeld
cool, right?
tour, right? And so he's like, great. He goes, can I put up a picture of the bakery? He's like, sure. So
Yes.
obviously we had a giant picture of Seinfeld
Of course.
on the tour. And of course now reruns, now it's 20 years,
Amazing,
25
right?
years of reruns.
Crazy.
Funny enough, I was talking to someone about the bakery and Seinfeld, and I was on a plane to New York or something. And of course I was watching TV, and the episode came out.
Oh, that's
I know
so
that
cool.
place.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I can't get it so quickly, but I have the picture.
That's beautiful.
I have the picture of the bakery on Seinfeld, and going to, and my dad's car. Not only was it, my dad's car was out front.
Oh my gosh,
like
that is
his
so
his
cool.
old Affinity at the time, and and it was just so great. So fast forward, my dad passed away 10 years ago now. At the age of 94.
Oh, wow.
So again, he had kids late in life.
Yeah.
I'm 52 now. He had me at 52.
Wow.
So when people talk about that and know the journey I've been through, when I think about my dad and my own journey, I was like, he was just getting started.
Right.
So am I.
Yeah.
You know,
That's cool.
Yeah. So
Wow.
he passed away 10 years ago, and I was like, oh, what could we do? What could we do that's so special to honor what he did for this
Right.
community and everything? And so I wrote a letter to Mayor at the time, de Blasio, and I said, what could, I said, could we do something, to maybe honor my dad, for, just being a staple in the Upper West Side community? And the mayor and the team got back to me, and they're like, "Sure." They're like, "We'll name the street after him for the
Oh my
day.
gosh.
We'll do an honorarium."
Cool.
So we did. So the city, and so I continue to thank Mayor De Blasio for this. They had a street naming where they named the street, that section of the street,
Right.
after my dad.
So cool.
For the day. And in order to further honor his memory, so that was a year later after he died. In order to further honor his memory, I'm like, what can I do during this street naming? So I went to just another store, the supermarket or whatever, and I bought 1,000 black and white cookies.
Love that.
And I just, as we did the street naming, I started giving it out to just the people.
It's perfect.
On the Upper West Side. I was like, enjoy this, And so what ended up happening is, again, the bakery had sold years
Right.
before, 15 years before.
Wow.
My dad's customers would take a cookie and start talking to me about the bakery
It's
from
amazing.
15 years ago. They'd say, "Oh yeah, we miss the bakery so much."
That's
Oh
cool.
my God,
That's awesome.
that whole
It's gotta be
Upper
such
West
a
Side-
nice feeling,
Right?
huh?
And so, it was such a great feeling. And so if you recall, right, so let's bring it home to Boca. If you recall, a couple months ago, H&H Bagels
Right.
opened in the, which is another staple of
Yep.
the Upper West Side,
Kramer worked there.
I still haven't been, by the way.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
opened in Boca Raton,
Right.
Yeah.
in Glades Plaza over there. And I said, I have to go there. I have to be there for the opening. And of course, I went there at 5 a.m. to be online because the opening was at 6. And I'm like, well, this is H&H. I said, people are going to be there. I said, this is New York, coming a little bit of New York to coming to Florida. So I'm going to be there. So I was there at 5 o'clock. I wasn't the first one in line. I
Really?
was like the 12th one in line.
Wow.
And what ended up happening is all the New Yorker transplants
Right.
were all online.
Yeah.
And obviously, I told them, the owners, the little story, and they were just so happy that little piece of the Upper West Side came to Boca Raton, and again, that was several months ago. This past weekend, I had some function at the park, and I was a little hungry. It was just a Sunday morning or something. So let me go grab a bagel. I was close by.
Right.
I think it was 10 o'clock in the morning. There was a line out the door.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was a line
That's
out
cool.
the
It's
door.
cool,
right?
Yeah, it was a line at the door, and I was like, "It's cool." And it was one of those great. It was one of those great stories. So like I said, a lot of us in Florida are transplants. The first 10 governors of Florida weren't born in
Right.
Florida. So I think Florida is just this beautiful melting pot where you are kind of taking the best pieces of where you were from and bringing it here.
Yeah.
And so, if our little piece of that is taking a little piece of the Upper West
Heck
Side
yeah.
and bringing it here,
Yep.
I think that's good.
I love
I think
that.
people like that.
Nothing wrong with a good bagel, I'll
Yeah,
tell you that.
I think and
I love
so
that.
I think it's one of those things where I think Boca is this just wonderful melting pot where we can have the best. Right, we got amazing restaurants, amazing parks, and amazing bagel stores.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things where you kind of just,
Boca's the best.
Yeah.
bring it
Yeah.
all home.
Well, listen, Mark, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot of fun learning about that. I love the Seinfeld stuff. Like I
Right.
said, this is part of our life every day, and I think it's just great.
One last point. I'm gonna interrupt you because we always talk about it. Boca's average age is getting younger.
Ooh.
Right. So Boca's families are moving in here, and so we often joke with the Seinfeld crowd because they're this claim to Del Boca
Vista.
and they said no, it wasn't really Boca, but really was, and all that's. And it's funny because I have a whiteboard in my office, and there's two sayings on the whiteboard, and one of them is, we're not Del Boca Vista anymore.
Love
Boca's
that.
getting younger, and families are moving here, and it's one of those great things about this. So yeah, maybe when Seinfeld, when he comes here, we'll show him around.
Right.
And, he could talk about it. But it's just one of those great things.
I love that.
And by the way, there's a street. It's not Boca del Vista. It's Del Boca Vista.
Del Boca Vista.
But close enough. We have friends who live on it.
Yeah.
It's in Escondido out in West Boca.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
I smile every time we go there.
Classic. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you again. We really appreciate
really.
it, Mark. For our listeners, we have got a special deal just for tuning in. Use the phrase green means go when contacting Home Dudes Florida or Paver Dudes Florida, and we'll give you 20% off labor, up to $250 in savings. And you can also mention this episode to the Nathanson Brothers Real Estate and Mortgage Team for a credit towards your appraisal valued up to $750.
That's not bad, right?
Thank you.
And to our listeners, remember, follow us, Dan and Michael Nathanson, along with our businesses, the Nathanson Brothers Real Estate and Mortgage Team, Home Dudes Florida, and Paver Dudes Florida. And make sure to follow Marc Wigder online and everything that you're doing. We're so grateful for what you do for the city. And we've talked about this, and we've talked about this before. As an, in quotes, politician, I don't get the politician from you, right? I'm a very good read of people, and I don't catch any bullshit or any pretense. I get the feeling that you sincerely care.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah,
We appreciate
we
it.
appreciate it.
I don't like politics.
Yeah.
I like helping people.
That's what it, and that comes through clearly.
And if I'm slated for anything, maybe it's that I'm probably a bad politician, which I think is good news.
Right.
Yeah,
I was going to say that's a compliment.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
okay with that.
That I'm not great at, seeking out the, the spotlight or
Right.
anything like that. I'm just trying to, get stuff done.
Yeah, and
we
we're doing
appreciate
it.
it.
So thank you. So remember, follow the Digital Mayors podcast on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you download your podcast, and of course on Instagram as well, so you can hear more great stories like Mark's. And Mark, again, thank you
thank
for
you.
joining us and for
Thank you.
all that you do for Boca and South Florida. I mean, this is what it's
This
about.
is cool.
Man.
Love it, guys.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye for now.
everybody. Bye.